So what I'm going to do is the first thing, the credentials, if you got some things, the user CCQ admin and the password associated with that will get you into CloudCluster. But before I get into that, I want to give you a little bit of background. There is a Google console that allows you to access all kinds of things beyond CloudCluster. If you notice, I've got all those instances running. This is our teams, the team I'm helping with. CloudCluster is running right in there. But we also have the ability to run other things. You can run, you can go into the AI space and launch instances that have like Jupyter Lab and things like that. But I'm going to show you a shortcut. You can also use CloudCluster to do that. But if you want to do things in here, this is how you do it. The compute engine, this is what you see. This is all the VMs. There's other things that you can go into, like, if you want to run Kubernetes, or if you want to run, any of those things. If you want to go into specific things beyond this, we can. But to do anything in this console, you need to, I need to get through your mentors a list of email addresses that I can assign to your project, or Cole can help, or myself. And then we'll grant you permissions to the project, and then you can go in and use this console to do whatever you want in Google Cloud. It'll actually give you full access, so don't run 50 GPUs. Actually, you can't because you're probably limited, but you can spend a lot of money and blow the credits away, but we trust you, so have fun and learn. The second thing is that username and password that starts with CCQ admin, that logs you into CloudCluster specifically. And when you log in, you'll get this screen right here. You'll kind of see, all the different nodes represented. If you click on the Access tab, and what this is this is a high-performance computing environment that is already launched in Google Cloud, and it's set there and running. Now, when you first get in, I forgot one thing. Let me go back. If you don't see the login node and the scheduler, if they're not green, that means they're stopped. That means when Cole created these, we stopped it so they wouldn't spend all the credits while nobody's using it. You need to hit the play button. And then it'll take about 5 minutes for everything to come up, reconnect to DNS, make sure the SSL search and everything are all good. And then you can start using it. So if you have to hit play, give it 5 minutes, go get yourself a drink, come back, and then you can use it. And you just do that by hitting that play button right there, which is up in the right. Can you see my mouse or not?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, good. And then once it's running and you've waited that 5 minutes, if it's not, then you go to the Access tab. And there's something called Open OnDemand, and that's created by the Ohio State Supercomputing Center with a couple of other universities. We collaborated with them, and that's fully integrated with CloudCluster, just like if you were, I think some of the TAC environments have Open OnDemand, and others, around the world use it as well. So you can click on that, and it will actually bring up this screen. It will actually prompt a username and password. I already logged in. And when it does, that same user ID and password, CCQ admin, and that password you were given will get you into this as well. You just use that same user ID and password when it pops up. If you want to use Jupyter Notebooks and you don't want to go into Google Colab and have all your data disappear, you can launch Jupyter Hub through this. And what you can do is you go to something called Interactive Apps. Everyone can see that menu pulling down? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And you'll see Jupyter. And SCHED is just the name of the scheduler that we created. But if you click on Jupyter, you'll get these options. So the first one is how many hours this instance will run. And I would set it for more hours than you think you'll need. And the one thing is when you do it this way, all your data is going to be saved. So if you have to come back and launch another one, your data is going to be saved. So you're not going to lose your data like Data Colab or like Google Colab. You don't have to start over again because it'll all be sitting in your home directory. You can choose the instance type. If you don't need anything special, just leave it to the default. And number of instances generally is 1, unless you want to do something crazy. And, you know, again, if you want to use GPUs, you have to know which instance types and those types of things. But generally for anything you do like in Google Colab, just figure how long you're going to be working, add a couple hours, because it will stop you. You can't add time. That's something we want to be able to do in the future. But right now it will stop, and then you have to go start another one. And I started one a little bit ago. So after that takes, you know, a couple minutes to spin up the node and connect everything, you'll get this screen. And you have this option down here that says connect to Jupyter. And you click on that, and it'll take you right into Jupyter. And then if you'll notice, this right here is in, and I'll show you something. If you go back to Jupyter itself, and we go to Files, and you go Home Directory, see, it's the same space that's here. So you can actually upload and download files from here or from in Jupyter. And if that instance closes after the time runs out, the data is still here whenever you save those notebooks or whatever you save, because it's sitting in your home directory. You'll notice it says / here because it's, you know, it's set to root for Jupyter. But if you go here, you can actually, it's in that same thing at CCQ admin, that same user. So that's that same directory. You can see the same contents. And then you can do everything you want to do. If you want to add, install things that you need for Python inside of Jupyter to make it go, you just do this just like you would Google Colab or anything else. You just create a new one and go, and it'll save all that data in the home directory. And that is how you could use that. If you want to launch an HPC job, you actually, you know, the easiest, if you're familiar with command lines, you can actually go to cluster, log in, and this will actually, and this is that same password. I'm seeing if it's still in the clipboard from last night. No, it's not. So I'm going to have to look up, anyway, my password for this account. Give me 1 second.
Password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exclamation point.
Okay, so now this is a shell into the login node, and it drops you right in that same home directory. Notice all those same files are there. So that's that same home directory. So you can edit, copy, do things here as well, just like you can in the dashboard and just like you can in here. And we can have a little bit of fun. You can do something. That was an old one. It's like, wait, why was it terminated? So now there's a listing that way. Touch file thing. And if you notice, file thing is there. That's a new empty file. That's just a way to create an empty file. If we go up to Jupyter and we refresh, file thing is there. If you go to the file system, and we'll just go back and then go back in, and then file thing is there. So all of those are the same, you know, the same file system with the different views. And if you launch multiple interactive sessions as the same user, this is a warning, you'll actually be working in the same home directory, so you can overwrite each other's files. And if you want to have people working in different Jupyter notebooks at the same time, this is where Google Colab is a little bit better, because you can you know, share a little better, whereas this way you have 2 different instances running. It doesn't like merge the changes as well. So just because Jupyter doesn't handle that, but it'll actually let you know, hey, someone else has updated this, you can update it. You just have to know there's a chance if you both ignore that, you can end up, stepping on each other's changes. So that's kind of how to do that. There are also other interactive apps if you want to have a look. I don't know how much more I want to go into, because so tell me what you need to know and what you want to do, because I don't want to give you a whole bunch of information that's not relevant, because that will not help you. So is there anything else people would like to see or what they want to do at this point?
So Dr. Humphreys, I see you're asking, is there a graphical user interface? So this is the graphical user interface, isn't it? Or are you asking for a different graphical user interface? Oh, is she here?
Hi, I was
Oh,
muted.
there she is.
What I was asking, is there a interface that students can go in and use it? I see a lot of it is Linux space, Unix space, commands, command line. And I'm not seeing the connect where students who don't know any, students who don't know any Unix use this system?
Yeah, so I only show the Linux command line as an option. So if they want to go, they can go into this part right here and say connect to Jupyter. Is Jupyter something you wanted to use? Is that what you were looking for? Or what were you looking for from within the GUI perspective?
I'm not sure which one they're going to use, but they are going to use Python. And so I just wanted the students to see how they would use how they would get to Python to actually run their code.
Boyd, could you, I know you're all logged in and all that good stuff, but could you close all of your tabs, like all of the CloudCluster tabs and the dashboard, and go from a logging in to Jupyter Notebook with some code?
Yeah,
just a hello world, Right. So in other words, this is what the students would see from the perspective of logging in.
Freshman that has not had all of this stuff. Freshman.
So when they first log into CloudCluster, they'll get this. And what they'll want to do is then click on Access. And right there at the top, there's something called Open on Demand. And you just click on that. And that it'll ask you a user and password, but it's that same one you typed in. And then you get this screen. And then go up to Interactive Apps and click on Jupyter Scheduler. And then the only thing you have to change here to get Jupyter is how many hours you want it to run. You can leave everything else the same. And then just click Launch. And then it'll take about 2 minutes. And then it'll take you to this screen, because it launches a node and connects everything. And then you'll have this Connect to Jupyter option come up. And then when you click to connect to Jupyter, you'll get Jupyter. And this is just like Google Colab. So if you want to create a notebook, you'll go in here and there's Untitled, IPNB, and then you just go in and type the Python just like you would any other Jupyter notebook. And let me find a good resource for Jupyter Notebook, because
let me try something here. So what I think I see what she's saying as far as in a problem here.
So Jamie, part of this is Dr. Doswell. Oh, there's echo. Part of what we're looking at is we have freshmen and sophomores that haven't had many of the courses like Unix, and so they're trying to come from the perspective, even Python, so that it's a learning curve for them to have to learn the Unix and the Jupyter and the reason for using these particular tools. How would they use them? Why would they use them?
Not a problem. So
that's not connecting.
Not a problem. Let me Boyd, I'm gonna throw my screen share up real quick, and I'm gonna see if I can see if I hit what they're looking for here. So I have, let me pull this, not that. let me pull this out so I can actually see it. All right, so Boyd, I'm going to try to use project 8. Okay.
Yeah, or if you want, you can just log into project 9 if you want. Like, yeah,
Oh, okay.
8's fine, but you can just use the one I'm using. You just have to use just use project 9, and then you can go into that same notebook and edit and show stuff. Then you don't have to wait for it to come up. That's all. If
Okay.
you want to use that.
Not a problem. Then I will switch over to that. Okay, so the link that the information that we send you, this is the link that comes up when you click the link. And then you go to CC. So I'm taking it from square one so that you all can see it. I'm going to log in and I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this here as I do it. So CQ admin and all right. So my task, what I'm trying to do right now is I want to run a Python hello world script. Okay. So everybody's used to, I'm not saying everybody because everybody doesn't know Python. Everybody knows what a hello world script is. So that's what I want to do. I want to create a hello world Python script. The way I want to do it, my IDE, my developmental interface here for this that I want to use is called Jupyter Notebook. In this case, I'm going to use CloudCluster to start Jupyter Notebooks for me, that programming interface, so that I can write my hello world application. Okay. And the way I'm going to do that, now this is the part where I need a little assistance from.
Click on access. Click on access. Click on access.
Real quick, Jamie, why
Yes.
are you using CloudCluster versus your local machine?
So 2 reasons. Actually, it's one main reason. You could use your local machine to do this. You can install Anaconda. I don't know if some of the schools use Anaconda and then use Jupyter Notebooks within it. Some people use Google Colab in order to do to use Jupyter Notebooks. You can use Replit. In our case, the main reason, and this sounds terrible, but it is what it is. The main reason we are using CloudCluster is because then you can say in your project, the HPC technology that we used to complete our project was CloudCluster on Google Cloud Platform using Jupyter Notebooks or Jupyter Lab. That make sense?
Yep, and it's
In other words, you could use anything. You can use Thonny, you can use whatever Python IDE you want. We're doing it this way because you're doing this project for this hackathon. So you can say this is the technology you used. Oh, I got the shake, I got the head shake. You're like, okay, got you.
But also the difference between using CloudCluster and your local machine is in terms of performance and power.
Yes. Not to mention, what if you had a, come on, Jen, you know, maybe the Chromebook, and your Chromebook you couldn't write programs locally. You could use Google Colab or something like this to work on it locally. What if you're working with people that are overseas, or you all are separated by distance, which some of you all are? You could use this system as a centralized place that you all could work on these different programs. Now, you can't work on them at the same time, but you can at least have all of the scripts and programs in the same place so that you all can work together. That makes sense? All right. So what I clicked here from my from the access screen, or what I should say, what I clicked on from the dashboard, or on the overview screen, was access. And in access, there we go. All right. So now, what direction do I want to go here?
You want first link, open on demand.
Open on demand. Open on demand. The very first link. It's asking for our username and password again. So we're going to use the ones that were provided. CCQ admin, and then, okay. All right, now we're in open on demand. In open on demand, I should be able to go to interactive apps. And,
So, yep.
okay. So even on first setup, is this there for them, Boyd?
Yeah, that's there. And you'll show them how to launch it. But if you go to interactive sessions, there's actually one running. But anyway, but yeah, it's what you're seeing is what they see the first time they go in.
Excellent. So it's saying, how long do you want it to run? Which in our case, we could put 8 hours, 12 hours, however long we need it. Number of instances, if we need GPUs, well, all this information is there. So let's say that you're running, that y'all are amazing, you're fantastic, you are the cream of the crop programmer because you know how to do parallel programming. You could add extra instances or numbers of nodes for your project. But in my case, I'm just going to hit launch because I just need to make a hello world application. When I click it, we see we have a couple here. This one's queued. That's the one that I just clicked, but I'm gonna go into the one that's already open. I'm gonna go into this Cloudy Blender one. And I'm gonna click on connect to Jupyter. So this is the one that I was just starting. As you see, it does take a little while to start up. But for right now, I'm gonna go into the one that's already open. So Jupyter Notebooks, again, it's that programming IDE. You can see all the files here. But right here, if you look right there, there's a little block that says code. And if you look over there, it says Python 3. If I wanted new one, I could go to new. But in this block, Jupyter Notebooks is an amazing program. It's what a lot of scientists use to do what's called reproducible science. It means that if I write a paper and I do some type of analysis or something, someone else can come back and do the exact same thing and get the exact same response. In this case, I just want to do print hello world. Our standard Python command. And then I'm going to click run. And of course, we get our output, hello world. So it's just a Python interface. That's it. If I want to do a for loop, I can do a for loop. If I want to import pandas, one of our favorite Python, one of our favorite Python libraries, I can hit that and run it, and it imported pandas. Now, let's say we want to import something that's not there. Like, I'm guessing you don't have GeoPandas up here. If there's a problem, it'll show you that there's a problem. Now, here's one trick I do want to tell you all. You can look this up online. It's just about everywhere. If you're trying to import something or install a module that's not there, exclamation point. Yep, this is a Linux command. If there's a module that you need to install that's not there, type exclamation point pip, which is a Python installer program, install, and then the name of the package you need to install. In my case, I'm going to use GeoPandas. Now, this is probably going to fail because there's a specific way you're supposed to install GeoPandas, but at least gives you an idea of how it works. I hit Shift Enter, and there he goes. It's installing that package. Well, my dear Jamie, it should now work, right? Import GeoPandas. It still gives me an error. The reason it does that is because when you install a new package, this is something you want to make a note to yourself if you're using packages, which chances are you're going to use some packages that aren't installed. Once you install it, you actually need to restart the kernel. See this little arrow right here? And it says restart kernel. What this means is I've installed something, but now I need it to be wrapped into the running program. And in order to do that, I'm gonna hit restart. It will restart it. Give it a second. Actually, I think it's done. And I'm gonna run this, I'm gonna click right back on this cell. This is one of the powers of Jupyter Notebooks. I'm gonna click right back on this cell and I'm gonna run it again. And this time, that little star lets me know it worked. It didn't give me an error. There are other things you can do with Jupyter Notebooks. You can actually set Markdown. So if you know Markdown code, which you all are using for your GitHub repository, you can use Markdown in here, so you can actually have text. So you can actually make a notebook that has text and code that work all together. And the side note is, I saw something else loaded there. Do you have anything else there? There are other things you can use, like Octave. If you wanted to, you could actually install R and use that as a kernel, but that's a little bit of a higher level. So does that make a little bit more sense? I know there's a lot of freshmen, but does that make a little bit more sense of why you would use this? Kinda, a little bit. Okay, all right. I see some head shakes. Oh, Dr. Doswell shook your head. I'm not you, Dr. Doswell. Okay, all right. I see thumbs up over there. All right. Again, CloudCluster is there to assist you, but you're not really using the full power of it. You're just the only reason you're going through it is so you can get to Jupyter Notebooks so that you can write your Python codes.
Jamie, can you touch a little bit on how they would collaborate using this? Because that's the part I don't think they really get. That everything you've done here can be saved, and then another person on your team can then come in and do the same work.
Not a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as, instead of untitled, come here, you. Let me change your name. Let me change your name. Let me go to File and rename Notebook. And I'm going to call this Janice Awesome Work. Rename it. So now that's the name of my file, and you see it over here, correct? All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Hey, Boyd, I just did some work on my awesome program, and I got GeoPandas installed for you. Would you mind going ahead and working on that program for me?
Yeah, let me share my screen. I have too many screens open. Hey, wow, there's this Jamie's awesome notebook here. Let me open that. Did you?
Let me save it.
Sure. I had one open, it got confused.
Okay.
So there it is. So I can continue working. I can say,
oh, you're going to go off Python 2? Yeah,
I'm
that
Python 2. Oh my gosh. See, this is like, it's like, man, this is what happens. But that's okay. That's why let's just see, I fixed it. And this is cool.
Okay, so I'm going to hit refresh on my kernel. Let me see what comes up. Let's see if I can see what you have. Don't stop your page. I just want to see if it does this, because I think it's. So in other words, you can start passing the code back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
The catch is,
yeah,
it's not collaborative in that you can both type on it at the same time. Did you go ahead and hit save?
I did now.
Okay, now let's see if I can see it. So there, so I see his, this is cool. I'm gonna add something to it. Print. This is Python 3. Let's see. This is a cool thing that y'all can't see my spelling errors. Let me go ahead and change that so that's spelled correctly. There we go. All right, so I just added something to it and I'm going to save it. So now,
and if you notice,
anything yet,
it's not there. And this is the part you have to kind of, when you're sharing, you have to communicate. So I'm just going to exit out of this. Then I'm going to come in here and open it again, scroll down and say, oh, hey, oh yeah, it's Python 3. You got to use those parentheses. And so
we're working on the same file, but it doesn't update live. Now, what you do see is over in the side, it'll say change seconds ago. But so this way you can still work on the same code. It isn't like Google Docs where you can do it live, but it at least does give you a way that you can work on the same files. And you may want to ask your professors, just as a hint, about importing libraries. So you can actually have different bits of code. Say, for instance, one of you all is working on a function. Someone else can work on that function in a different file and then import that file and use those variables or functions. But I'll leave that up to your mentors if they want to go to that level.
Right. And you can also have two different notebooks you're looking in here, and then you work on it and say, hey, let's merge them. And then somebody merges them into something. So you can work on two different parts, if that makes sense. Sometimes that doesn't make sense if you're working sequentially.
Exactly. So that's something that collaborative software part, collaborative software engineering and working collaboratively on software can sometimes be fun. But yeah, this is a thing. This is a thing.
And the reason I keep emphasizing about the collaboration is there is nothing worse than having everything on your hard drive and your hard drive crashes just before presentation.
And that has happened. That has happened. That happened the first year. A team worked their entire 72 hours, got everything working, and 2 hours before the final presentations, that person's computer's hard drive failed. That is a real thing. So having it in the cloud also ensures that your stuff is saved and backed up.
Hey, so can you all see that dialogue on my screen?
Yes.
So if you wait long enough, it actually tells you it's changed. And if you click overwrite, that means I'm going to overwrite Janie's changes. But if I hit revert, it will load the version on disk. So, and then it told me. So it does do that, but it does take a minute or two. It looks every couple of minutes. So if you see that screen, make sure you read the dialogue and make sure you do what you want to do. Sorry to interrupt. It just kind of, I thought it would pop up sooner, but there it is, finally popped up.
Cool. All right. So like I said, it's a little interesting.
Real quick, I see everybody's really quiet right now. This is your opportunity to ask any questions that you need. Don't be shy, because the first hackathon I came to, I had no clue what CloudCluster was. So don't feel like there's an embarrassing question. That's why I'm asking certain questions now.
And if you think of one later, just ask in the chat too. Don't be shy. Don't, you know, we can help.
If you notice, I'm learning as well. I'm still learning. It's a thing.
Yeah. I'm still learning. I'm using Python 3.
It happens every once in a while. I'll pull up one of my old codes and I'm like, oh, I did that.
I have one question for Boyd.
Yeah.
So our team is planning on using Jupyter Notebooks for cleaning the CSV files. So I guess do we need to download that CSV file to the Google Cloud and store it there? Or can we do it on computers?
So what you can do, do you have the CSV on your desktop, or where do you have the CSV? There's like a
I think I could have it on my desktop, yeah.
So you can actually go right into Jupyter. Let me share my screen. I want to make sure this works because, you know, I want to make sure it works. So I'm going to find, I just have this random file on my desktop that I'm dragging and I'm copying, and it's just an image file. But did you see I just drag and drop that image, right? And it showed right up into Jupyter Notebook, and then there it is. So
okay, you can just drag and drop then.
Just drag and drop it.
I was worried about like if it was like a big file, like I wouldn't want to download it straight to my computer, but I guess that's not an issue.
If it's a no, for those that, okay, now we showed you the easy stuff. If you want to go grab some big file, and it's on an HTTP URL, you can drag and drop it, and if it doesn't work in Jupyter, if you go to this file manager right here, which goes to that same directory, it'll actually copy gig files very quickly. But if you don't want to copy it down to your machine in the middle and wait for two things to happen, there is something else you can do. And you can actually go to the command line. Okay, cover your eyes if you don't want to use the command line. You don't have to do it, but just cover your eyes. There's a command called wget. And what you can do is you can put wget and whatever the URL is of the file, and it'll actually, and I always have to do a Google or a man page. So I always Google because it gives me the first thing and I always have to find it. But there's a dash, I don't remember the wget dash one. I just like did this yesterday. Anyway, if you put the wget and the URL in, it should download. Sometimes you need an option depending on what's there. But if you just put wget and the URL, it'll download it right where you're at. I can't remember if there's a -T or something. That's what I can't remember.
I think it's a dash lowercase o, if I remember.
Dash O, yeah,
What?
dash O. Thank you. Yes, dash O. Output.
Oh,
'Cause you got output
actually
the file.
capital O. Capital O. Is it?
Capital
Oh,
O.
no, it is lowercase.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you can get a
Could you
big
show
file.
them could you show them the user interface way though? The way you showed before?
This one?
Not that one. Actually, you could do that way too, but
Yeah.
so all right, in Jupyter Notebooks, actually, if you go back, okay, yeah.
Tell me which
So in
one.
Jupyter Notebooks, you can go to File and
Open path.
yeah, open from path, or oh, this one doesn't have import. Interesting. It usually has import. Okay, then yeah, the other way through the open on demand.
Is import in the file, or is it?
Yeah, it used to be on file. Well, there's an up arrow right there next to the folder. No, let's go up in the directory, isn't it?
Let's upload file.
Oh,
No, it's upload.
okay,
Oh, it's
upload
upload
file.
files.
Yeah, I knew there was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the same thing as the drag and drop. That's from your local machine.
So we've shown you 3 different ways. One with the open on demand interface. Mind clicking on that real quick?
Mhm.
And going back to, so can you show us from
So you can click on upload right here.
well, how do you get to that?
Sorry, I'll show you. Sorry, from the main console when you're looking, you're in open on demand. Okay, you're already in open on demand. You just click on files and it'll take you to the home directory and that right there. And you can click upload and you can drag and drop here or you can browse just like you could do with Jupyter.
And then there's also the Linuxy way. So one, you can use open on demand, that interface with the files, my files. 2, inside of Jupyter Notebooks, you can click the upload button and
Or even just drag and drop.
or drag and drop. Or 3, you can use the Linuxy way where you open the terminal and use wget --o and then whatever the web address is.
Right.
And all 3 of those do the exact same thing.
Right. And the wget one is really only if you want to get something on a, you don't want to have to put it on your computer, your own computer in the middle. That kind of saves you that step.
Go ahead.